Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Do tell. I guess that's the point. You can't tell.
Right.
First, I'm going to give you guys a shout out because I talk about Stephanie Miller all the time.
Uh-huh.
And during this trip, I went first to England
Yeah.
For a special trip. And if you go to my malcolmnance.substack.com, you can watch the Black Man Spy episode for the TV show The Prisoner.
Oh, cool.
And show 60s, Patrick McGowan, secret spy, super spy, captured in this luxurious oasis of a prison camp and designed to break him. And I spoke at their annual convention. I'm the first spy to ever speak at a show about spies, and it was fantabulous. But that's not why I was in the country. I was there for two other assignments which are related to Ukraine, which at this point will remain classified, which were highly successful. And then I guess we're going to announce now where I was on the second mission. After that mission, I went to Ukraine again.
Yeah.
And I was invited by the Renewing Democracy Initiative, which was formed by Garry Kasparov, the chess champion, and run by Uriel Epstein. And they went on a diplomatic fact-finding mission with Ambassador Bill Taylor, the former ambassador to Ukraine, former Senator Heidi Heitkamp, who was just a delight to be around because he slept through the first bombardment of the first night. But sharp as attack, and some famous journalists, including Max Boot and David French.
Wow.
So a very, very interesting trip.
Well, yeah, you said sometimes I drop off the radar to help people whose lives are in mortal dangers. Other times it's a fun trip to get a load of pink gin and inspect some tanks.
I did all that.
Were gin and tanks also involved?
Yeah.
Well, in fact, Fortnum and Mason, Pink Gin, they actually have a distillery on the 4th floor in London.
Wow.
So if you wanted that pink coronation gin, you would have gotten it there.
I just felt Frances Callier's ears perk up because, as I recall, she is a gin girl, and
everyone has a gin in England now, but in Ukraine it was all vodka. I bought back loads of vodka.
Oh,
I felt like a bootlegger when I was coming out. I had like 8 liters or something.
Let's talk about Ukraine because we just asked you off air. Moscow was hit by drones Tuesday morning, what appeared to be the first attack on residential areas of the Russian capital since the invasion of Ukraine. It comes weeks after an alleged drone attack on the Kremlin itself and following days of deadly Russian bombardment against civilians in Kyiv. Tuesday's incident caused damage to some buildings and forced residents to evacuate. The Russian Defense Ministry blamed Ukraine for what it called a terrorist attack. Pot, kettle for you. But anyway, I mean, the other, as I'm told, I think nobody was even injured in it. But talk to us about that.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying this was possibly a false flag by Russia, based on the attack that occurred on the Kremlin a few months ago,
right?
Which really had some of the hallmarks of a false flag. Firemen standing by, guys actually up on the stairs with fireman suits when that drone, which looked nothing like a Ukrainian drone, actually hit the Kremlin or blew up near one of the Kremlin buildings on film in front of everybody's cameras. This was an entirely different animal. I'm writing a Substack about it. You'll be able to read it this afternoon. This was a completely Ukrainian attack. The drones that they used were Ukrainian-built drones. They carried the warheads that were manufactured in Ukraine. And, the first night that I was back in Kyiv, we got struck by the largest missile barrage the city had seen until 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And that involved over 30 Iranian-built drones, and not to mention 6 of their hypersonic Kinzhal Dagger missiles, which were supposed to destroy the Patriot batteries there. And the Ukrainians were just blasting these things out of the sky all evening. So every day for almost a year, Ukraine has been bombarded with drones. And suddenly, 2 or 3 drones actually explode in Moscow, and the Russians are calling it terrorism.
Yeah.
Well, that is, pot calling the kettle black.
Right.
And the Ukrainians were just sending a message back. We can do this too.
Yeah. We have to talk about Tara Reade, the former U.S. Senate aide who accused Joe Biden of sexually assaulting her in the 90s. Could I have the tiniest of violin? She says she has made the very difficult decision, Malcolm, to defect to Russia. She made the stunning announcement during a Russian state press conference streamed on Twitter, sitting next to Kremlin spy Maria Butina. So some are saying Reade has perhaps been a Russian asset all along. What?
You don't say.
She then used the podium to apologize to Russia for the U.S. backing Ukraine in the war. Oh, Malcolm, you have the floor.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, okay, first off, I'm going to say, remember a few months ago, we had this ex-legionnaire named John Bama McIntyre who claimed that he had defected to Russia. And I had known this guy, and he was a total loser, waste, alcoholic, drunk, everything. And my response to that is what I'm going to say about Tara Reade. He is Moscow's problem now. So Tara Reade is Moscow's problem. She no longer has to be in our airspace. She no longer has to be anywhere where we could stumble into her at a mall as she's chugging down her hot liberal tears latte or whatever it is that she drinks these days.
Yeah.
She is a wholly owned subsidiary also of Elon Musk and Kim.com. So you just sit over there and not have McDonald's and not have anything other than cold borscht and sanctions and enjoy yourself because you are no longer America's problem, girl.
Yeah. You also tweeted, hacktivists expose Russian intelligence kingpin wanted for U.S. election interference. Malcolm, I have to ask you, as the only person who warned us, who warned America before the 2016 election that Russia was interfering on behalf of Donald Trump, I have to ask you, what do you foresee for the 2024 election? They clearly are going to try again to do everything they can to hurt Biden, right? To help Trump. I mean, what is your intelligence take on where we are with Russia?
Well, I said this about 2020, and I'll reemphasize it for 2024. Russia has expended itself. They just do not have the resources or reach anymore to really impact our elections, no matter how many Tara Reades. And hey, listen, as long as we're at it, can Scott Ritter defect over to Russia? He lives uncomfortably close to where I am, and I have a lot of elementary schools near here.
Yeah.
So, he's another one of those guys who are out there as mouthpieces for Moscow. Tucker Carlson. These people are no longer have the power they think they are, because Donald Trump and the Republican Party have completely co-opted their message.
Yeah.
They essentially will do all of Russia's work for them. Nothing America can do is good enough for them, and Moscow does it better, right? That's the MAGA line. The ultra MAGA is that you have to hate Ukraine and love Vladimir Putin because Donald Trump says so. As far as intelligence assets are concerned, the best thing that we could do is hope that Jack Smith actually comes out and charges Donald Trump with the Espionage Act so I can wear my I told you so vest again.
By the way, what do you make of Lindsey Graham's upcoming arrest by Russia? He manages a way to be unhelpful to everyone. I mean, while he advocates for Ukraine, which I appreciate, I mean, first of all, it's unwise the way he spoke about it, right? It's the best money we ever spent. Russians are dying. As one of the many people can say, our war is not against the Russian people. It's against Vladimir Putin, who is the thug in this whole scenario. But anyway, so, they're obviously calling for his arrest. RT host is calling for his assassination, which gives him an opportunity to sound super butch. But go ahead. What's your take on Lindsey?
What I find fascinating about all of that is, even though Russia is doing that is what's going to hurt Lindsey Graham is the very fact that he spoke against Russia amongst the Republican base. Because all Donald Trump has to do to keep him in line is to mention this, all right? That you actually, I know how to talk to Vladimir Putin, and you excited, you got the Russians out there, and now they're going to sanction you. And look, all he has to do is lift his little finger, and Lindsey Graham can be destroyed. And I don't mean about the way that we always think Lindsey Graham will be exposed to the public eye, all right? Donald Trump has to just say, you're a traitor to me and my policy, which is pro-Moscow, eliminate NATO, work towards the destruction of Ukraine. So Lindsey Graham, if he thought he was having a John McCain moment, well, what did Trump say about John McCain?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't like heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could think of exactly the wrong thing to say, it would be that Russians are dying, as if that's our goal. I mean, it's.
Hey, it works for me. I just don't believe it when it comes from Lindsey Graham's mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as we keep saying, right, if, Russia stops fighting, the war's over. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine's over. So it's not, this is whatever. We can say it over and over again. This is a terrorist attack on a sovereign country by a terrorist lunatic. Anyway, let's move on.
Republicans say they won't cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. But can honest, hard-working middle-class Americans really believe what these politicians say? Republicans said they wouldn't overturn Roe v. Wade. Here's what Supreme Court Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett said during their Senate confirmation hearings.
Roe v. Wade, it is a precedent of the United States Supreme Court. A good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court.
Roe v. Wade. It's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court.
Roe is not a super precedent, but that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled.
Well, we saw how that turned out. They played us for fools. Tell your elected officials to keep their hands off of our Social Security and health care benefits. Fool me once. Let Majority Rule was responsible for this message. LetMajorityRule.org is a project of the Marvin Lucas Super PAC, which is responsible for and paid for this ad and is not affiliated with or authorized by any political campaign or candidate or candidates committee.